Oh, I nearly caught you there.
Welcome back to the Let's Talk Racing YouTube channel in association with Racing TV. And it's been a while, we've not made a video this week so far, but we've got one now. We're going to review the Dublin Racing Festival as well as put up potentially a couple of Ante Post dockets for later.
Fingers crossed we'll find something. Very difficult at the moment with the markets, and to be honest, I went into the Dublin Racing Festival hoping that I'd get loads of answers to all my questions. I came out of the weekend with more questions.
How was the weekend?
It was very good. It was very good. Very grateful, I suppose, for the amount of people that came up to me on your behalf as well throughout the weekend. Everyone seemed to have a very good time. Obviously, the good land for the good people trend seems to be growing and growing, numbers and numbers. And the fact that the horse went and did what he did on the first day, I'm sure we'll get into that, was obviously fantastic. And
for the good people.
Exactly.
No, talk to me, how did it feel when he crossed the line in front?
It felt very good. I must say, I was doing one of my slight Incanto Brunos, like surge to the winners enclosure, so I'm there front and centre, and then people there or pat me on the back, people, oh, we've backed it, and that's great. You know, I'm glad people have had a few quid on and they've enjoyed it. And I know Mikey O'Sullivan, he was in fine form on Sunday night when I saw him, so it was all fantastic. And unfortunately, it meant that I was a little bit worse for wear earlier this week, which perhaps means why we're so late in the week.
Yeah, that might be the reason. But we are going to go through every single grade one of the DRF and talk about the handicaps and bumpers as well afterwards. But we will touch on, and we've not done this really for a long time, our Ante Post selections for this series. It's on episode 6. We've both actually put up 6. I'll go through mine first. My first one was American Mike at 9-1 for the Ballymore. Now, he was very disappointing the last day at Nav, and something went wrong. I was expecting him to run in the Nathaniel Lacey, but all of the Bector stud horses were pulled out. I think they were thinking Albert Bartlett. I think that might be the route if he had run in the Nathaniel Lacey. Now they're struggling for options before. Might run this weekend over 2 miles. That would probably mean he'd go to the Ballymore, and they've come out and I think they've said the Ballymore. So we're going to have a runner. I put him up at 9-1. He's now 20-1.
Shrewd.
I think he'd probably be shorter than that on the day. And I don't think it's one of the races which there's a hot pot that's going to go and win. So I think it's a race that's quite open. He could run well. I'm not expecting much considering what I saw the last day, but from his bumpers, I think that he does have the ability to run a big race. King of Kingsfield at 12-1 for the bumper. Now 33s, but he's going to run.
Yeah, I wasn't really expecting that, to be honest, especially after how we ran at Christmas. But as I said to you at the time, there was a morsel of hope that all of Gordon's ran stink that day, and all of those in the bumper ran stink that day. So they obviously think he's much better than that. Clearly, from what we saw earlier in the season, he is better than that. Still don't think he'll win a bumper, but at least, again, you're going to have a runner.
I'm going to have a runner. The two that I'm probably happiest with, one would be Salvador Ziggy at 25-1 for the Potemps, now 9-1.
Would you say you're the original wise guy on Ziggy?
I think so. I know there's been a couple of people on podcast afterwards that have mentioned him around the similar time, but I think I'll date it back. I think I was the first one. I just like his form, and the form is working out better and better and better as we go through the season. Jerry Colombe at 9-1 for the Brown Advisory, now 3-1. That's probably the most solid out of all of them.
Very much so, yeah. He's going to take an awful lot of stopping, I'd say.
He is indeed. Classical Dream at 8-1 for the Stayers. Now drifted out to 12s after rumours of a setback, but apparently he's back in work. Apparently he goes there. So that is interesting. You've got to keep your fingers crossed. And then the Goffer in the latest episode at 25-1 for the Kim Muir. He's now 12-1. That's because he won at the Dublin Racing Festival, but he's never going to get in the race. He's never going to go under 145, and that was a really tough one. That was a tough one. We knew he was well handicapped. He just went and won the wrong handicap.
Yeah, I know. It was even worse when I didn't even have a bean on myself on Sunday, and it was a fantastic ride from Davy Russell. Everything that we'd kind of been saying for the last few weeks about how well handicapped he was, how his jumping will come to the boil in a big field and stuff like that, it all came true. It was just none of us were on the right day.
No, it was a very, very tough one to take. Take me through yours.
Yeah, well, we started off very strong, of course, putting up a wild shot of Wrexham at 33 33 to 1. I think currently you could quote me 33 million to 1, and it still would be a poor value bet. He would literally need to start tomorrow. Unfortunately, just got that completely wrong. Got probably a little bit overindulged in Bardenstown Lad last year, was trying to take another big swipe. He's ran 2 listless races since. He was absolutely hopeless on Musselburgh on the weekend again, so unfortunately there's something wrong with him at the moment. Scarlet and Dove at 12 to 1 for the Mare's Chase. I'm happy enough with that. I know there's 2 very good mares in there, 2 very exciting mares in Allegory de Vassy and Impervious, but she's the solid one of the lot, and they're probably going to have to go to improve past her rather than the other way round. So I think she's not bad. She's around 7 to 1 at the moment for the race. Then you move on after that. We're getting into, again, Xander Clegane situation. I just don't know where to go with Xander, really. I put him up at 25 to 1, and he's currently 10 to 1. So it's not a bad bet. It's not a bad value play or anything like that. But at the same stage, I'm sure we'll go through the race in more depth. But I think he's a horse that could run very well in a Bartlett. I just can't see him winning it.
No, we'll touch on the race later. Take me through the others.
Well, Grange Clare West for the Ballymore, another absolute stinker, that. It didn't seem a stinker at the time. I thought I was being very above and beyond putting that up at 10 to 1. He's unfortunately not going to run in the race. Appreciated at 10 to 1 for the Turners. Again, we'll go through it probably a little bit more in depth. Looks more likely that he'll now run in the race. I think he's down to 3 to 1, 7 to 2. Again, the price is right. You're going to get a run for your money. There's enough to be said about that. And then the last one is probably the one I love the most. I have been talking about this horse every day, Maller Mission. I put him up at 12 to 1. He's already down to 9 to 1, 8 to 1. Oh, jeez, they just need to book Barry O'Neill. Give me that Racing Post bulletin that they've booked Barry O'Neill, and we go in again.
So you're happy with those? How would you rate yours out of 10 so far?
We're probably ranging in and around a 6 out of 10. I think we've got 4 horses that are going to turn up in the race out of 6, which isn't the worst. And out of those 4, I think 2 have very live chances and 2 have squeaks.
I think maybe I'd give mine a 7. Only because of Jerry Cologne. I think
that's a very good bet.
He's now 3 to 1. It was 9 to 1. I think he could go in. I'm going to have 5 runners, hopefully, and the one that isn't going to run is because he'd won a big handicap before. So there was logic there. I'm hoping Jerry can win and Salvador Zaghi can run a big race at 25s. Now let's move on to the Dublin Racing Festival. We'll quickly fire through all of the Grade 1s. We know you've seen the replays a million times, and if you do enjoy this video, please do hit that like button. But the Nathaniel Lacey came first. Good land for the good people. Mikey Bigstones gets the job done. Is he going to win the Ballymore?
I think he's got a very good chance of winning the Ballymore, yeah. I thought he was electric. He's good to jump. He's a very strong stayer. He's got a bit of pace as well. I know a lot of people after the Cheltenham decks were so up in arms how this horse wasn't entered in the Bartlett. Like, what were people watching at Christmas time? Like, this horse has got a bit of pace.
He does.
Like, he won a 2-mile bumper down in Wexford, which by all accounts has worked out superbly for a Wexford bumper. Unseated at the first on hurdles debut. That can happen. He just went straight up in the air. And, you know, he's won a maiden hurdle, which has turned out very well at Christmas, and then he's gone and hacked up again. I think he's tailor-made for the Ballymore. You just have to wonder with Barry Connolly, he's got so much he's got such an effusive attitude with these 2 horses that, you know, they can't be beat. And who am I to prove him wrong? It'll be one of the great days, one of the great weeks if Barry Connolly has a double with the 2 novice hurdle winners. I think he's got a very strong chance of doing so. Whether I'd have him down as nap-worthy material or anything like that, certainly not. But I'd be very, very shocked to see him out of the first 3.
So the second was Absolute Notions. Needs 1 more run to run in a handicap. I think they were thinking possibly Michael Purcell and then the Martin Pipe. But he could be too high. And also he's finished a close second in a Grade 1. Why not go down that route? The third, Sandor Clegane, Albert Bartlett. I get the impression from spending a very short amount of time with you that you were slightly disappointed with him.
I was disappointed with his finishing effort. I really was. Turning in, I was thinking happy days. Turning in, he was as close as latest exhibition was turning in his Nathaniel Lacey. Now, I know he's up against good land, very good horse, and he's entitled to be a bit outpaced. I get that, and I think he was outpaced. I don't know. I just would have liked him to maybe hit the line a little bit stronger. I think he wants a bit further. I think he wants a bit softer ground, especially. I just wonder whether he's good enough to win an Albert Bartlett. Really, it kills me to say that. It really, I may as well be taking out a bullet and shooting myself. But I can't tell the people that I genuinely think he'd win the Bartlett. When wouldn't surprise me if he came in the first four in a Bartlett. But I think it's a long shot. Well, not a long shot, but he's a 10, 12 to 1 chance by reason.
Fourth horse wasn't beaten a million miles. Cool Survivor for Gordon and Gigginstown. One for a handicap?
I think so. I'd have him well on my radar for the Martin Pipe. I know people want him in the Bartlett, so he steps up in trip. I just don't think he's good enough to win a Grade 1 at Cheltenham. I thought the way he was ridden, given that he's really a front runner, was very interesting. So I'd have the goggles on with him. I think he's got a very good chance if he turns up in a Martin Pipe.
Moving on to the Spring Juvenile, and all drama. What happened? Lossie Mouse didn't win the race. She ran a huge race in defeat, finishing second to stablemate Gala Marceau.
Very hard to know. Jeez, you wouldn't want to have been, you would want to have been a fly on the wall in the Richie and Willie Mullins camp after that race, because he's been absolutely done in, not only by a stablemate, but by an owner mate, which has completely ruined her chance. She's been shunted back. Then Sean O'Keefe drops his reins and she ends up 10 wide on the bend in. Like, you couldn't make it up.
Is she going to reverse the form at Cheltenham?
I think so.
Yeah?
I came out of the race. I know people will say that you have to give credit to the winner. Completely respect that. I've come out of the Spring Juvenile with a higher impression of Lossie Mouth as a horse than I went into the race, and she's lost.
What do you think of Blood Destiny and amongst those two looking towards the triumph?
He's a very good horse. He seems to be slick over his hurdles. My wonder is just what he's beaten. He went down to Cork, won a very average maiden hurdle, and then the last day they couldn't get out of each other's way, not trying behind him. So very hard to judge that form. Does he have a second fav or a joint fav's chance? Maybe so. But I'd be very, very shocked if we get to declaration stage and Paul Townend's not on Lossie Mouth.
The third horse was Takao. Boodles?
I'd say so.
Boodles' favourite.
Yeah, he's got a very strong chance in it as well. I thought Mark Walsh gave him a lovely ride, kind of backed off the two in front just when he needed to, and I can see why the money's come down. On
paper, the Irish Arkle looked to crack it, and it turned out that way, won by El Fabiolo. I think this horse is a thorough stayer. I think they went extremely hard all the way through this race. When you've got a horse like Dysart Dynamo going hard from the front, it's always going to happen. And I almost think it was similar to when Blue Lord won at Christmas in the Grade 1, how they went so hard and he just stayed and stayed and stayed. Obviously has the speed, obviously has the class, and will run in the Arkle. But I had more admiration for John Bon, who I was willing to take on at the start of the season in the 2 mile division. After watching this, I think they're very good horses. Dysart Dynamo's finished 4th. Appreciated's finished 3rd. Banbridge has finished 2nd. All the form is there, what you want to see. That being said, I think it may have left a mark on El Fabiolo because it was such a tough race. I do think he's a thorough stayer, and I don't know. I just think John Bon's going to win the Arkle now.
Yeah, I can see that.
He's going to be quicker and better at his fences.
Yeah, I think he's certainly a better jumper at this stage. I think fundamentally El Fabiolo is the better horse than him. I really do, because he was only within a half length of him the last year at Aintree when he'd only ran 2 times at that stage.
That being said, John Bond had run in the Supreme on his previous start.
I know, but coulda, woulda, shouldas really. Like he had all the experience, he had all the form, and yet a horse with no form that had won a Mickey Mouse race around Tramore by 10 lengths has come within half a length of him. I think it was a fantastic effort from El Fabiolo, given how inexperienced he is, given how his jumping still has room for improvement. And I just wonder with John Bon, I've got this bad feeling that they're going to want to buck out and be positive and show off all of his great jumping. And you're still going to have Dysart Dynamo in the Arkle, and he's going to cause a nuisance to John Bon, like he did last year, and the two of them slit each other's throats, and it ended up paving the way for Constitution Hill. Probably, now, I know this year has proven it wrong, but at the time you could have said flattering Constitution Hill because the two of them fell in. But now that's obviously not true given how good he is. But at the same stage, That could happen again, and you could have another breakneck gallop, and if El Fabiolo can keep tabs on them, there'll be nobody finishing stronger.
Banbridge and Appreciate it finished second and third, both likely to step up in trip?
Yeah, I'd say so. Banbridge tailed himself off. We were just having this discussion before we came on. Like, I know people, Banbridge has become a wise guy's horse for the Turners. I think if Appreciated was ridden, or Dysart Dynamo was ridden in that race to just beat Banbridge, they'd have beaten them 5 lengths. But he's kind of sucked in because he's obviously JJ Steven's done the right thing. He's kind of backed off the pace and ridden for place money and has got them for second. But the other 2 horses have at least tried to win the race. Appreciated, a horse I've backed for the Turners. He's going to run the race now. He needs to go up in trip. It was lukewarm. Really lukewarm.
Why?
Just thought he was a bit better than that, to be honest. I thought the race was going well for a long period. And again, a little bit like Xander Clegane, for a horse that's going up in trip, you kind of want to see them hit the line a little stronger than he did.
Could he have just been going at his absolute limit at that speed all the way around and just never really had a breather to finish off the race?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to convince myself. On the flight home, I was trying to think positives, buzzwords. You're there like almost with a storyboard in front of you. How are things going well? And maybe that's the case. I'm hoping it's the case. I haven't lost hope on him whatsoever. I still love him as a horse. I always will. I suppose, as I say, I was just a little bit lukewarm.
Then we had the Irish Gold Cup. Galopin Des Champs winning comfortably in the end. That may have... I always got the impression he was going to win, but should Fury Road have been alongside jumping the last? I think people are trying to claim that is why some aren't as impressed as some others.
I know, but at the same stage, people forget that Fury Road on a going day is not a bad horse. I know Fury Road's had his doubters, me being top of them at some stage, because sometimes he just sacks it in, but he's a very good horse on his day. And look, this Galopin Des Champs, I think he's just fantastic.
Does he win the Gold Cup?
Yes. He does, and to be honest, I just get the impression it's becoming trendy just to take this horse on for the sake of taking this horse on. And I think this horse could win a Gold Cup by 5 lengths, and then people will be saying, "Oh, the form's not great. It's not one of the best Gold Cups I've ever seen."
A lot of people are saying that the second place Statler is the one to take from it.
You're saying this just to rile me up.
I'm not.
You are saying it to rile me up because you know what I think about Statler. He ran a perfectly creditable race. He jumped pretty well. I don't know. There's people in white coats for less than people that think Statler's overturning that form. If they could run for 10 miles, he won't overturn that form.
No, I completely agree.
Unless Galopin, of course, if Galopin Des Champs, falls or ends up pulling up through injury, of course the form can be reversed. There's completely big circumstances that something could happen. But if Galopin Des Champs runs anywhere near to form, he will stay, and there's no way that form's reversed.
In the handicaps and the bumper, Percival Legalois, I've completely stumbled there.
Percival Legalois.
I've butchered that one. I think he's got a huge chance in the Potemps if he was to go there. Qualified, I think that is going to be his next stepping stone. I think Battle Over Doyen, I know I put him up, but I do just want to say, I'm not going to put him up for any race at Cheltenham. He was hampered twice, and he did stay on, only beaten 19 lengths. I thought it was going to be 75 lengths at one point in the race.
19
Stayed
lengths? On. You can't say that's an eye catcher.
Up in trip, I think he is definitely one to take forward. He will be winning a handicap. There's no way Gordon will get rid of him yet. And then Factor File, I think for me, he'd be the one I'd take from the bumper. I think a really helter-skelter run bumper around Cheltenham with lots of runners is going to be right up his street. I think he's got a big, big chance. Anything for you in the handicaps of the bumper?
Well, I was very disappointed in the handicap chase. I thought I was really onto him with Grange Walk, to be honest, at 2 out. I thought he was travelling into the race beautifully, tipped up, unfortunately for Liam Quinlan. If he runs it at Fairyhouse and punches down, I know I go on about this horse a lot, but he's going to go in one of these handicap chases at some stage. So I was disappointed with him. I obviously backed Factor File. He was one of my stronger bets of the weekend as well. I thought I was happy everywhere until this horse on the outside that I barely had a cursory look at in the race card prior goes and does me. I think at Cheltenham, I'd give a sniff to him, certainly overturning that form. And if he overturns that form, he could well be in the money.
Moving on to day 2, and Mighty Potter won the Ladbrokes Novices Chase. Turner's favourite now, short price for the race. The one thing I think is he's going to be some machine over 3 miles next year. Like all those Irish Gold Cups, Lexus going to be right up his street. Very, very impressive. Is he now the absolute standout in that race?
He has to be, based off what he's achieved.
But I know you were lukewarm on him before, looking back on that Supreme. Do you have any more confidence going into this year's Cheltenham Festival with him?
You have to, because what he's done both in the Drinmore and again at Leopardstown on Sunday, I thought he was absolutely superb. The only thing with Mighty Potter, he just seems every now and then, I don't know whether it's just him losing concentration or just kind of having a laugh with us all or something like that, because sometimes he just jumps fences beautifully and then we'll nod and as if kind of to go, oh, I've nearly caught you there. And I just wonder, I think the only thing that really will probably get this horse beat in the Turners is he does something stupid and somehow finds himself on the deck down the back or something because he's tumbled over himself, or like he's just got a little, he jumps like 98% of the time absolutely superbly, 2% of the time he'd have your heart right in your mouth. And on the day, would I potentially back him at 5-4? Yes. Am I going to back him at 5-4, 6-4, whatever he is now, a month and a half out? Certainly not.
Well, is he going to be appreciated in Banbridge?
He's certainly beat Banbridge, and I think based off what we've seen this year, you'd have to think he's going to beat Appreciated as well, even though I have backed Appreciated. I would love to be proven wrong on that score, but I think the form and what he's achieved would indicate otherwise.
Gallard du Mesnil, where next for him?
I think he's going to run in the National Hunt Chase. I don't think you could take any confidence from that run that he has any chance of winning a Grade 1 Novice Chase at the Cheltenham Festival.
Moving on then to the Dublin Chase, and the big shock, Blue Lord beaten.
Yeah, I don't know. This race was a complete head scratcher. I was watching it going, what on earth is happening?
But is he not just a stayer as well? Like he won the Clonmel Oil. He always looked like he'd shaped to be a stayer last year as a novice, and they went helter-skelter at Christmas, and he reaped the benefit of that. Gentlemen to me, they went at Cruel. Danny Mullins again off the front end. Just never going to have the pace to go past him.
Maybe so. I just would think the Blue Lord's got good days in him and he's got pretty average days in him, and he was absolutely fantastic at Christmas. That probably exceeded wherever I thought he was. That was as good as I've ever seen him, but that was nearly as bad as I've ever seen him there on the weekend. Like, he jumped like he hadn't seen a fence before.
Where's Gentleman to Me going to finish in the Champion Chase?
Wouldn't say he'd be in the first 5.
No.
Like, it's one of those. He's one of those horses. Like, he's a bit like Great Field, and you're there going, well, every dog has its day, and he kind of gets a day every season. He had it at Aintree last year. He beat Edwardstone. If he rocks up, it wouldn't surprise me if he won, say, like the Punchestown Champion Chase or something from the front end. But I don't think he has a Scooby's chance. I think he's barely got a chance of getting round in the Champion Chase without doing something to himself. And I couldn't be having that form whatsoever.
Irish Champion Hurdle, State Man. Stamping his quality on the field. Honeysuckle second. They're going to go to the Mares Hurdle now. I know there's been lots of fallout about this. She should be running in the Champion. She's a dual Champion Hurdle winner. I would have the opposite opinion, personally. She's not going to reverse the form with State Man at Cheltenham. Yes, she's the dual Champion Hurdle winner, but she's clearly regressed this season. And I don't think State Man's going to finish within 5 or 6 lengths of Constitution Hill. So that she's got absolutely no hope of beating Constitution Hill. Yeah, run, but are they not just going for a day out there? Whether they could run in the Mares Hurdle, she has a realistic chance of winning the race. I think they've got the right thing. Have one more run at Cheltenham and give her the best opportunity to win, rather than playing for third in a Champion Hurdle. Yeah,
I can see that. I can see why some people are disappointed, because she obviously has won those races. But at the end of the day, as a racing fan, like, I'm going to be there on the Tuesday. Fingers crossed you're going to be on there at the Tuesday. Would you prefer Tuesday at the Cheltenham Festival that she runs, or she doesn't run? Exactly. And if she runs and she wins, I know people say, oh, the Mares Hurdle and all that. If she runs and wins, the whole place will be torn apart.
It will. And I look forward to that day if it happens. Vauban was third. I think he's going to be one for future years. State Man, though, right now, you were waxing lyrical about him before. You must have an extremely high opinion of him now. But where does he sit with Constitution Hill? Should Nicky Henderson or Nico de Boinville or Michael Buckley be worried in the slightest?
Well, I'm sure, given the type of people they are, that they're not worried. But I think this horse, like, I put up a tweet after the race saying he was different mustard. And
He's extremely good.
And every reply was from people going, oh, well, he's not the same though as Constitution Hill. And I understand Constitution Hill is a tremendous horse and possibly one of the best we've seen in recent years.
No,
I'm not saying he's...
No, you can't like any other horse.
No, I can't like any horse. No, I really can't. It's physically
can't.
impossible to like any horse. It's physically impossible to say possibly the best... I would go as far to say the best 2 mile hurdler we've seen in Ireland since Faugheen. I can't like
You're wrong.
Because Constitution Hill is just too much of a world beater.
You're wrong, sorry.
Well, that's fair enough.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Constitution Hill. Do you know who's your favourite horse?
Probably Stateman at this stage.
It's not, sorry. That's wrong.
Sorry.
That's wrong.
What about Goodland?
That's wrong as well.
No, it's wrong as well.
No, you can't have an opinion.
Big King?
Sorry, mate.
Oh, dirt.
Yeah. No, my favourite horse, Brave Man's Game. I can't even have that.
No,
it has to be Constitution Hill.
Yeah, it has to be.
How do you see the Champion Hurdle playing out?
I think he'll give Constitution Hill a very good race. It would surprise me greatly if Constitution Hill is able to beat Stateman on the bridle. I think there will be a moment, not saying that it's a moment that he won't be able to go and still go and win the race, and maybe win the race quite comfortably, but there will be a moment of worry. I can guarantee it, because this, as I said, as we were saying a second or two ago, I genuinely believe this is the best Irish 2 mile hurdler since Faugheen.
How are they going to ride him?
I think they'll ride him just off the pace. I think...
Do you know who's going to be on the pace? It's going to be Constitution Hill.
Yeah, I know. Well, no, Constitution Hill's not going to make it, though.
I think he will.
Oh, jeez, there's no hope.
Who's going to run in the race? You've got Stateman, Constitution Hill, Vauban, Pied Piper. There's going to be 4 in it.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a very small field.
And none of them are going to want to get on with it. So I think they're going to do exactly what they did in the Fighting Fifth and just send him out in front.
Yeah, but at the same stage, what's to suggest that Stateman won't want to do that? He's popped out in the Irish champion hurdle.
Exactly, but Nico's not going to care if he does that. But I think if Stateman wants to try and make it a speed test against Constitution Hill, Nico's just going to send him on.
Yeah, potentially so. But at the same stage, if Nico does that to Paul's there thinking, happy days, this horse is better with the lead anyway. I think both horses have the versatility to make it, and have the versatility and probably the want in an ideal world to take a lead. So really what they need is some kind of 33-1 rag to go out there.
Not so sleepy.
or for pleasure or something like that. Just suddenly rock up for a mile or a mile and a half. Like, they do in the athletics, where somebody runs for like 1,500 metres, the 5,000 metres, absolutely bust on their gut and then just walks off.
Henderson needs to buy a bullet train.
Yeah, exactly.
Just send one off in front.
On you go.
He does.
But anyway, as I say, Stateman, very, very good horse, and I'd be very surprised if he can't give Constitution Hill something to think about.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he will give him something to think about. I don't think he's as good as Constitution Hill. I don't think he will win the champion hurdle, but that's not telling you anything you didn't know before. The 2 mile novice hurdle, the big disappointment was Facile Vega. Etait Temps won the race. Let's focus on the winner quickly. Any chance in the Supreme?
He has to have a chance in the Supreme after that. He's a horse I haven't liked. I've made that pretty verbal. But he keeps proving me wrong. He's a better horse this season.
And then going back to Facile Vega, what got him beat?
Went too fast. I don't think he was right. And it was all just a little bit of a mess.
Bit of a combination of lots of things. I would be extremely doubtful. I know they're going to say they're going to ride him differently, and they're going to get him to Cheltenham. I don't think he'll run at Cheltenham. I think Willie will be using every excuse to try and save him, because he's clearly a horse riddled with ability. They want to keep this horse sound, fit and well for years to come. Do you run at Cheltenham after a run like that?
No, well, maybe not. But at the same stage, I think Willie Mullins would be moving hand and fist to try and get this horse to run at Cheltenham, no?
I don't know. I think I just worry. Like performances like that, how often do you see a horse come back and win on their next start impressively in a Grade 1 novice hurdle?
Well, the answer to that is not much, really, Josh, to be honest. I couldn't name you near on anything that comes back to that sort of life. At the same stage, if any man's going to do it, it will be Willie Mullins. And if any man will have Paul Townend suddenly riding this horse stone cold last in the Supreme, it wouldn't surprise me. I think it makes the Supreme a more interesting race, and there'll suddenly be a lot more runners.
It looks a very, very open race, doesn't it?
Exactly. But again, why is it open when Big Baz is constantly telling us that this Marine Nationale just cannot be beat? He was on RTE, he was on Look on Sunday, that I was talking to him before Look on Sunday with my headset on. I was then throwing him onto the TV, and there he goes. He just tells Nick, look, This horse wins.
Just goes and wins. Would you be of that opinion?
I think it's... the thing with Barry Connell is he keeps saying these things. He keeps getting it right.
He does. He's been... I think this is the year of Barry Connell. It is.
It really is.
It really is.
Last year was John McConnell with Big Bard Lad, and there was a few other slow plodders that we got really stuck into. Barry's turning the jets on.
Before we go on to best bets, we are going to look at the handicaps and the bumper runners on that day. Gaelic Warrior won the 2 mile handicap hurdle. You were a doubter of his before. Have you got a better opinion of him now? Surely you do.
Oh, of course I do. I think I said the last time we were discussing Gaelic Warrior, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if that horse wins the King George one day.
No.
I think he's that good. Like, I think he's got a proper Grade 1 mind, Grade 1 ability. I still can't have him for anything at Cheltenham, though.
Just jumping out to his right. Is that the big issue?
He's an absolute klutz by himself. And the problem is, like in a handicap hurdle, it wasn't quite as noticeable because he was able to kind of tuck in on the rail and have horses on his outside, which kind of prevented him from being largely out there. Then, of course, 2 outs omitted, happy days, and less obstacles to have to jump. And then at the last, the one hurdle, he's out by himself. He's near in the car park, gave me a high five on the way to the winning line. Like,
Fun. Going to win the bumper?
not in the slightest bit. She could go and win the Mayor's Bumper at the Aintree Festival or something like that, potentially. I thought... and I've looked at the race back. I think it was a rotten race in the end. They've just fallen in her lap. Because like halfway down the back, you'd give yourself 15, 16 to 1 that she'd win the race. She was on and off the bridle, and they've just absolutely stopped in front. And she's kind of won pretty easily in the end. But I'd have thought I'd take obviously the Geldings Bumper the previous day, and the first 2 in that, far above fun.
It is interesting with going back to Gaelic Warrior, Etait Temps, Facile Vega. The Supreme now looks open. I think Gaelic Warrior will run in the Supreme, personally. Yep. But what do Simon and Isaac Sway do? Because they've got Dart Raven, who finished second to Etait Temps, probably needs to step up in trip. And they've got Impere Pass, who's currently favourite for the Ballymore, or joint favourite with Hermes Allen, and he's won the Moscow Flyer. So could they be tempted with him down in trip? I think that is an interesting point and could develop in the coming weeks. But let's then move on to our Ante Post selections. This is going to be your 7th selection. Take it away.
Yeah, well, I'm really struggling, I must confess, Josh. Like, the markets at the moment, I just can't really get an in on half of them. I don't find there to be massive amounts of big value out there. There's races I want to get stuck into, but then you end up kind of coming back to the fav. And then there's horses. I'm going to name one horse, for example, because I know some people have asked me about it, because the Champion Bumper is so wide open, and people have asked me, am I going to put up Incanto Bruno? I think Incanto Bruno, I wouldn't have given him a sniff's chance in the Champion Bumper 2 weeks after October. The more and more people kind of keep on beating each other, I think he's got to go to Cheltenham with a chance. But he's 20 to 1 at the moment. He's going to be no bigger, or he's going to be no shorter than 14 to 1 on the day. And you could potentially get 4 or 5 places in the bumper. So there's not really any feeling of necessity to put him up. Instead, the horse I'm going to put up, I'm taking a wild swing, 33 to 1 shot in a handicap. And it's for the Boodles as well, so a 4-year-old handicap. I'm really straying away here, but he's running at the weekend, so it's going to be interesting. He's running in that Nace race, which has had winners.
Everyone loves that race.
Oh, exactly. Well, yeah, it's hard not to when it keeps on producing decent horses. Jazzy Matty is entered in the race, but it's a new recruit for a certain Mr. P. Nolan from Tim Doyle's yard. And it's a horse called Metamorpheus. He won on his 2nd juvenile start. He won very impressively as well. And it's a race that Paul has a very good record in. His first Cheltenham Festival winner was in this race back in 2005. Now, that's not today nor yesterday.
I was in nappies.
Yeah, that was a few years before we got stuck in. But HMS Seahorse ran very well in the race last year. They've bought him specifically to go to Cheltenham and run in this race. So at least you're confirming target. And to be honest, unless he's tailed off on the weekend, he'll go for the race. He's already up at a rating that will probably sneak him in anyway. I'd like to see him run well now. And I think if he won or even came second to Jazzy Matty, he'll be half the price of 33 to 1. He's 33 to 1 nearly above across the boards. And I think it's just too big. And at this stage, I've got 3 or 4 horses that are going to run. They're in the book. They're not bad bets. And this is a little bit of a Salvador Ziggy swing at the hills. But if he wins at Nace on Saturday, if he wins at Naas on Saturday, he'll be an 8-1 shot for the Boodles. That's how much that race swings markets. So that's why I need to get him in now, and I'm going to take a chance. Metamorpheus for the Boodles.
There we go. I'm going to put up nothing. I looked through the Ante Post markets, and I don't want to put something up for the sake of it. So I'm going to hold off, and I'm going to catch up with you on a later episode. But to make up for things, I do have 2 best bets for this weekend. Barbados Bucks in the second race at Newbury on Saturday. I think he's 7-2. I made a case for him 2 or 3 videos ago.
On Stephen's Day, yeah?
Yeah, and thought he was actually my nap at Christmas, I believe. He finished 3rd, didn't happen for him, but I think he'll come on again, and this race is perfect. And then Hartour Dudery at 7-2 in the 3:48 at Warwick. This horse is definitely well handicapped. I'd be very interested to see if he was to win extremely impressively. Would they look at spring handicaps? Maybe the Aintree won the 2-mile race. I wonder. I think he's much better than his mark, and I think it was a good return a long time ago, and I think he's going to come on plenty for that. So he'd be one I'd be very.
Is he also the best looking horse in the entirety of training?
He is an extremely good looking horse. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was very impressed with him when we went to Dan Skelton's earlier this year. I've just the one over at Naas in the 2-mile handicap hurdle at 250, I believe it is. Porrick Roach's horse, Ernie from Nerney. What a name that is. 3rd. After a bit of an absence the last day at Punchdown over 2.5 miles, drops down in trip. Peter Smithers taking a few pounds off his back. I think he's got a huge chance.
We do hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please hit that like button. Subscribe to Let's Talk Racing if you haven't already. It's free to do, and it means that you can get all these videos in your YouTube inbox at the moment you open up the app. Do get your comments down below, any Ante Post selections that you might have, and you can help me out because I don't have one, so that would be much appreciated. We do hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you with a video early next week.